Continue on US Highway 380.
So I thought maybe it was time for another drive and talk. And here we are, still in New Mexico. I just finished filming a video about a little ghost town that you may want to take a look at. And I am heading back to where I've been staying for the past week, Rob Jagger Campground, which is a BLM land campground. And it's near Capitan in Lincoln County. And I have a few videos in the area. There's one I'll be publishing today on a tour of Fort Stanton. There's another one I published a few days ago on Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County Wars, and a little tour of an independent grocery store, which I like doing. And I'm just, it's about, it's 12:15 p.m. and I'm heading back. I have a friend coming to camp with me for tonight, and then we're traveling together to Leesburg Dam State Park, and I'll be there for close to 2 weeks. Anyway, my summer of New Mexico is winding down. I'm going to be in New Mexico until the morning of November 15th. And November 15th, I will be driving to Quartzsite, Arizona from City of Rocks State Park. And that is Deborah Dickinson's Cocoa Fest is at City of Rocks. And Cocoa, K-O-K-O, is keep on keeping on. It's her slogan. So, what have I been thinking about? Well, here's something that I've been thinking. I've been thinking a lot about the lifestyle of being a full-time RVer or a full-time nomad, whatever you want to describe it as. And my satisfaction level with this lifestyle is extremely high. I mean, I haven't been this happy for this long a stretch, maybe ever. But there are lessons I'm learning. One of them is if you can help to not make commitments, don't make commitments, because part of the joy, at least for me, is the freedom of it. That I've got reservations at, as I mentioned, it's actually 3 state parks in a row. There's the one I mentioned that I'm going to tomorrow. Then there's another one outside Deming, which is pretty close to City of Rocks, but it's a different park. And then from there I go to City of Rocks. So I've got 3 reservations. And those reservations cost me, the reservation fees, or I think it's $12 per reservation. So if I decide not to go, all I'm really giving up is $12 for each reservation. So if I gave them all up, that would be $36 out of pocket. And so that gives me flexibility. I can change my mind anytime I want. Now, when you make commitments, though, like I'm going to be camping with someone in the next park, then it's not so easy. But if you're not willing to make any commitments, you're going to be pretty lonely. So it's like walking with a full cup of water. It's balance. But the whole idea of being free and open to go and explore and do things on a whim is a pretty powerful, it's a powerful pull. Now, those of you that are sitting at home dreaming about doing this, or you're doing it part-time and maybe want to do it full-time, the question of, well, what does it really cost? Well, everybody that does a video on the cost is going to say the same thing. It depends on your situation, but I'm going to talk in general terms and my experience. It's best if you can do it to enter this lifestyle without any debt. Right? So you don't want to be paying a car payment or a car car and an RV payment. Although you can do it if you can budget it, you can do it. But I think the most freedom comes. That's so annoying. And that's again my Progressive insurance monitoring thing. And every once in a while it loses cell signal. Why they made it beep like that when it loses cell signal, I have no idea, because there's clearly nothing that can be done about it. So why make it? Don't get me started. And it made me lose totally my train of thought. But costs. So my first year I decided it would be a really good idea to get a camp hosting gig. And there's two kinds of camp hosting things. There's camp hosting where they pay you for your hours worked, and that's mostly in private campgrounds. In state and federal campgrounds, you're called a volunteer camp host, and the only compensation you get is if you're lucky, full hookups for free the whole time that you're there, in exchange for anywhere between 20 to 30 hours of actual work or duty time. And that varies depending on the assignment that you have. So I decided I was going to do that my first year. I was up in Sandpoint, Idaho in the Panhandle, and I was a camp host for the Army Corps of Engineers at a campground called Springy Point right on the lake. It was beautiful. I had full hookups for the whole summer. I was there from about the first week in May to the first week or second week. I don't remember. It was around September 11th. I left. And because I lived in that area for a while, I had lots of contacts, and it was great to be there. But what I did notice is I wasn't a big fan afterwards, thinking back on it, and being stuck in one place for that long. So although I did sign up to be a camp host in Yosemite, because the whole reason I did the Army Corps of Engineers is so difficult to get camp hosting volunteer jobs in the national park system, because so many people want to do it. But I got into, as soon as that went on my resume and I had a ranger written recommendation, the day I applied for Yosemite, they called me, interviewed me, called my references, and offered me the position within 2 hours on the first day. But that never happened, only because my campground that I was assigned to was, at the beginning of the season, they needed to finish. It was closed the prior year for renovations, and they still needed to do some at the beginning of the season, so it was going to be a late start. But then the tremendous snow in that area happened over the winter, and one thing led to another, and they never opened the campground. So I never got to do that job. But since then, I've decided, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to tie myself down. Watch, these guys are just going to pull out right in front of me. I had to slow down so they could do that. So what I did this summer instead is New Mexico has a state park system, and most of their parks have sites with electric and water, and not sewer, but electric and water. And you can get an annual pass for $225 a year, and the sites that are electric are $4 a night. That's it. And I mentioned earlier that there's a reservation fee, so and you can stay no more than 2 weeks. So 14 days, you pay $12 plus $4 a night, $68 for 2 weeks. And if you look at that like rent, that's $136 a month, including utilities. So that's a big expense out of the way. It's very small. And I found I became very intentional about food and about grocery shopping, and very careful. And I got my grocery bill down to $400 or less a month. summer, we're talking about, $550 to $600 for the equivalent of rent and eating. And then there's all the other expenses, and I do a little bit of work part-time over the internet, so I have a very high bill for internet access. I need duplicate access. It's expensive, but you can get away with certainly less than $100 a month for an unlimited cell service. My friend, her channel, Sally Forth, she's raves about her, it's not Verizon or AT&T, but T-Mobile home service, which is mobile, and I think she said she pays about $50 a month and is just thrilled with it. Now, she's not going to get internet with that every single place that she goes, but she maybe doesn't need to. I need to, so I couldn't get away with that. But many of you could. And then you have you got to pay car insurance, and there's the sort of the minimal things that you need to do. And you need to pay for gas. And that's what's great about gas. It's expensive, yes, but you can decide how much you're going to travel. You can make that decision of, like, right now, I'm bleeding money as I'm driving right. I'm not pulling the trailer, so I'm getting about 20 miles to the gallon, but I'm bleeding money as I'm driving. But I have a choice. I can do that or not do that. So all in all, if you could, there are people that live on the road in a van, and they stay in things like 14-day Forest Service or 14-day BLM land, and they move every 14 days, and they can get by in a Social Security check that is, maybe a little less than $1,000 a month. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. I'd say on average, though, if you want to be comfortable, you want the internet access, you want to be able to do things for fun, go out to eat every once in a while, I'm saying you probably need an income of at least $30,000 a year for a single person. I don't have any experience with shared expenses with a partner. Certainly it's not going to be double, but it'll be more. But to get numbers on that, there's plenty of channels out there that talk about budgets for couples and families, by the way. And you get into $40,000 a year, I'd say you're pretty comfortable on the road. And then anything over 50, it's you're glamping, especially if you're coming into this, as I suggest, without debt. And I would even suggest delaying going into this lifestyle for a year or two, if that's what it takes to really buckle down and pay off your debt. You need a nest egg, and there are two reasons you need a nest egg. One is that you're either driving your home or pulling your home from place to place, and you have at least one engine that needs to be taken care of, and you need things always need to be repaired on the road, and disasters do happen, especially if you're on a budget and you end up buying a fairly well-used rig. You're going to have expenses. So number one is you want to have dollars available that will cover even the most catastrophic thing. I mean, you've got insurance for real catastrophe, but I'm talking about non-insurance related catastrophes, like a blown engine or having to replace the refrigerator in your rig, things like that, things that wouldn't be covered by insurance. When you're there and you are confident that you have more than enough money to take care of any catastrophe, the secondary benefit of that is you can relax. It's okay. If it happens, I'm covered. Now, the flip side of that is, I was reading a Quartzsite Facebook. There's a lot of Quartzsite Facebook groups, but I was one in particular. And this guy was talking about coming out to Quartzsite for the winter, and all he had was $1,000, and he's like, can I make it from, you know, XYZ state to Quartzsite on $1,000? And it was like, man, if that's all you have and you're not coming to Quartzsite for a job or something, that's got to, unless he's cool as a cucumber and a go with the flow kind of guy, which maybe he is, that to me is a hell of a risk. You want to have enough money to eat, for gas, to stay places. You want to have peace of mind, and that's what this, to me, the whole lifestyle is about: having peace of mind and being able to relax. So if you're gonna do it, build up that nest egg, get rid of that debt, and it's gonna be a lot easier, and you're gonna be a lot more relaxed, and you're gonna end up spending in that. If you're able to do all that stuff, you're gonna spend more money in the long run by far, because guess what? You're gonna live longer. Sorry. You're gonna live longer, you're gonna be on the road longer, so over time you'll spend more money, but I assume that's something you'll happily do. Lack of stress is a pretty much proven life extender. Doesn't guarantee it for sure, but stress is a killer. And here's the thing that I discovered is that when I retired 2 years ago, on December 1st, and to be exactly 2 years, I was in a job I really loved. I liked it. But it was, in my case, it was emergency mental health, working for county government. It was exciting, it was interesting, but until I left, I didn't realize the amount of stress I was under. It was a stressful job. And I had forgotten really what it feels like to be laid back and relaxed most of the time. I had gotten so conditioned to this level of baseline stress that when I was on the road for a few months and I was at this level, can you see through the steering wheel? This level for an extended period of time, it was a very foreign, strange feeling, but it was wonderful at the same time. And it enabled me to get through a kind of a tough time that I had at the end of the season last year in Quartzsite. I noticed I felt like I pulled a muscle in my leg. And I just thought, well, I'll rest, it'll go away. I don't know how I pulled a muscle, I don't remember doing it. And it got worse and worse and worse. And to the point, by the time I left Quartzsite, I had bought a cane and I needed a cane to get around. And I wasn't able to exercise, I wasn't able to walk any long distances. I was miserable. And I ended up going to my domicile place, Pahrump, Nevada, and I engaged over a series of months from the middle of April to the middle of July, physical therapy, chiropractor, deep tissue massage, all out of pocket, Randy, because I'm not 65 yet, I'm 63, and I said I don't have Medicare, so I've got Affordable Care Act insurance that was costing me at the time, I think, about $110 a month, but it was basically disaster insurance, because the max out of pocket was something like $8,000 or $9,000 a year. So all these things I was doing were not covered by insurance, but it was a very it was a very stressful circumstance for me. Being in that much pain and going to all these doctor's appointments and not being able to travel anywhere. Yet I was okay with it because I had that low baseline of stress for so long that I was able to accept my circumstances and I made the best of it. And I had a good time at the RV resort I became a member of there, and kind of have that as my permanent residence, because I technically now, as a member, own a piece of that business, of that RV park, and hence I have a deed where I have a proportion of the real estate, so it's a legit home base. Where was I? Anyway, that was kind of a tough time, but being in the lifestyle and having a low level of stress enabled me to get through that. It wasn't that bad. I don't look at it back as a horrible time. It wasn't ideal because I couldn't really travel, and it was frustrating not being able to walk around the block without being in pain. But now it worked, especially the chiropractor. And I've had back problems my whole life, and my whole adult life. It first happened when I was probably 18, 19 years old. I twisted it diving, and I've had recurrences of lower back pain the whole time. But this was my point is, I'd been to a few chiropractors, and really none of them had been able to really help me in any meaningful way. And during this bout, I actually saw 2 different chiropractors. One was in Quartzsite. Nice guy, but I didn't get any relief. And he was honest. I asked him, do you have any idea what's going on with my leg? And he said, no, I don't. So he was very honest. He wasn't able to help me. But I went to see a chiropractor in Pahrump. And by the way, I'm stopping here, and I'm going to check to see if my Amazon, there's an Amazon locker inside here. So I need to cut out for a minute and see if those things have been delivered. I doubt they have. Probably in an hour or so, but hang on. So, the delivery had not come yet, so I'm heading back to camp. I'm planning on having dinner in town tonight, so hopefully it'll be delivered by the time I come into town tonight. And if not, when I leave tomorrow for the new location, I can stop by here in the morning and pick it up. And so it's sort of an interesting little couple of things that I'm buying. One is that I surprised myself even and ordered and upgraded to the iPhone 15. And the reason I did that was the iPhone 14 that I have, an iPhone 14 Pro Max. When I bought that last year, I was thinking, well, I won't spend extra money for extra memory. Well, I don't use memory, right? So I think I got 128 megabyte memory. And now that I'm doing a lot of YouTube videos, and I do all my editing on the iPhone, I'm constantly having to juggle delete files and move things because I'm running out of memory. So they have one that's almost 10 times. It's like a gigabyte. So, and I have AT&T Business, and they had a special thing. They'd give me $1,000 for the phone I have. So, just for a few $100s more, I'm upgrading. So, in anticipation of that, and I won't get that until sometime in November because it's back ordered. I needed a case for it, so I ordered a case, and it doesn't use those Apple Lightning things anymore. They use USB-C. So I bought a couple of things of a couple of USB-C to USB things, and there's a new device that's become quite popular for choking victims, and it's a device you kind of put over a person's mouth who's choking, and you squeeze a ball and it creates a vacuum, and it's highly effective. If a quick Heimlich maneuver isn't working, it'll dislodged, and I think they're claiming 80% success rate, which is actually better than the Heimlich. But you combine both those things, and you got a pretty good chance. So I bought one of those just to have it in the car if I'm ever anywhere. I'm an ex-paramedic, and if they're anywhere where that's happening, I might might be able to save somebody's life for $79. So that's the third thing that's being delivered. These Amazon lockers in these small towns it's been very good to me. It's and I did a thing a while back on the Postal Service and general delivery. You can, in some cases, use general delivery for Amazon packages, but there's a couple of problems. One is that I don't know what percentage of post offices will allow shipments from third-party carriers like UPS or FedEx, but I have run into several of them that say absolutely not. We don't accept packages from anyone other than the United States Postal Service, because they don't get paid to take those packages. They don't get any compensation or productivity credit for them. And one might say, hey, it's the government, they owe us. Well, you know what? Not a penny of tax dollars fund the United States Postal Service. They're funded through, they're operated like a business. They're funded through the fees. So it's legit for them to say no. But a lot of them, I called the place in Deming, New Mexico, and they said, yeah, absolutely, we'll take anything. So that's great. Then the other thing is, if you follow the directions on how to address something by the Postal Service for general delivery, it's your name, and then the next line is general delivery in all caps, and then the zip code in the city, the zip code, and the +4 is all nines, and that's standard. Now, if you try to do that with FedEx, they're not going to. They won't deliver without a street address. So you have to put in the street address of the post office. Now, AT&T required me to change my my billing address to get it shipped on the road. So I changed it. I went to change it to the post office in Deming, because that's where I'm going to be in November, and it would not let me put in the address. I put in the address of the post office, and it would default to
in 3/4 of a mile. Turn right on
zip
New Mexico
+9s and without
220.
the street, and it wouldn't let me change it. And even the operator or the customer service rep that was helping me do this order, she said she thinks it'll be fine. I don't. I think that FedEx is going to pick it up and it's going to put it in their system, and if you wait a few days, it'll cancel it and return it. And that's happened to me before. It's undeliverable address. But one of the things that you can do in FedEx, and I've done it once, is that as soon as you get that tracking
Turn
number,
right
you can
on
contact.
New Mexico 220.
Excuse me. Sorry about the Garmin. You can reroute that package to a certified FedEx drop-off, right? And you can't go in there and just redirect it to any old address. Only the shipper can do that. But as the receiver, you can
on the left.
as the receiver, you can redirect it to a FedEx office. And not only are there regional FedEx offices, you can do this, but there are also kind of satellite offices that are considered to be the same. Walgreens and Dollar Tree, many of them have this within their stores. And the reason you can do this is they make you prove who you are. When you show up to pick it up, you have to show them a driver's license. So my plan is, as soon as they ship from AT&T, the second that happens, I'm going to contact FedEx
In 1/2
and,
mile, arrive at Jagger on the left.
and redirect it to the Walgreens in Deming. And that should work. That should work. Anyway, I know that was kind of a rambling drive and talk, but that's all I have for today. And I will see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.